Visit Avery.com, Avary, for the most up-to-date news and information on Team Avery.
Avery, 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 Avery,
This is The Gala Show. I'm your reporter on the beat, Gala Avery. On this episode, you may know my guest as a comedian who has appeared in everything from What We Do in the Shadows to Brooklyn Nine-Nine to Wild 'N Out to his 3 episodes of Drunk History. He's also appeared on tons of podcasts like Raised by TV, Action Boys, High and Mighty, and Comedy Bang Bang. Yep, you got that right. Today on The Gala Show, I've got John Gabrus on the mic. Hey, John.
Hi, Gala.
How are you?
I'm wonderful.
I know. And we're in like your wonderful maximalist home.
Yes, we are.
I love getting to go. We were talking about this earlier. I love getting to go into people's homes and like knowing like what's going on.
So it activates that nosy bone in my body, and it's such a treat to be like, oh, that's, and because you know, you can like hypothesize what the inside of someone's apartment or house looks like based on knowing them.
Based on the inside of their head.
Yeah, and then when you get there, you're like, oh, this is not what I normally I used to have guests for my podcast come over, and they would always be sort of blown away because my house doesn't really match me.
Really?
But it's because I share with a grown woman who is like aesthetically minded, so that makes total sense.
But you're like, I would say like, I would assume you would be a maximalist. But
I
maybe,
mean,
like,
we are in this room is all me decorating,
Okay,
and it's
'cause
pretty maximalized.
it's like dude bro maximalism.
Yeah.
I would assume that.
I'm still a little bit of like mouth breather. Yeah, we got some dicks. We have, classic.
You did put Post-it notes over the boobs though behind you.
Yes, this is my wife's tits, so I just want to say like that was a gift, but I put Post-it notes when I have guests, particularly women I've never met in person.
I know. It's funny because John and I actually, we are in this like Earwolf universe together because when we did Video Archives podcast and we did our like boxes to send out to people, our producer Josh is also the producer of Comedy Bang Bang.
Correct.
And so we have like this Earwolf, even though I'm not associated with Earwolf, we technically are.
I have the amazing shoebox like right underneath my dresser.
Do you really?
Yeah, and I have the pint glasses over there.
Were you a victim of the cookie, like the missing cookies?
No, I had one.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Those cookies like were the bane of my existence.
I was the victim of my wife eating my cookies and my snacks. She left me Junior Mints, which she didn't like, but neither do I. Really.
So it's funny. I think the Junior Mints, one of them was for Roger and one of them was for Quentin.
I think QT was the Junior Mints.
Maybe. I think they both like them. But like there's Raisinets and Goobers.
I like those. I don't mind those.
Because Quentin's choice at the movie theater are Goobers. Roger's choice are Raisinets. The dark chocolate ones.
Interesting. That's kind of...
I want them at the Bev to make like a Quentin box of like what he would order if he was coming to the Bev.
Oh, that's fun.
With like the popcorn, the hot dog, the Goobers, the drink,
red apple cigarettes.
The red apple. Yeah, he's gonna smoke a pack of those in the bag for sure.
Oh, that would be tight. Yeah.
So also, side note. Okay, I saw online that your favorite rom-com is Moonstruck. Is that true?
I mean, it's top 5 for sure. I lived in that neighborhood in Carroll Gardens for like 8 years.
Yeah.
And the bakery that Nick Cage works at was the coffee shop that I
really?
wrote at. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was Nadra's when I lived there. I'm sure it's changed names like 10 times. But yeah, I'm a big John Patrick Shanley fan because when I was a kid, my favorite movie was Joe versus the Volcano. I was like obsessed with that. So all those movies stuck with me hard. Yeah.
It's funny because I love Moonstruck, and I don't know where I saw that your favorite rom-com is Moonstruck. But I was like, okay, I'm glad that we can agree this movie's great.
It's really funny. Danny Aiello is so funny.
God, I had a friend growing up that like loved rom-coms, and I told her, let's put on a rom-com, and I put on Punch Drunk Love.
Okay.
And she never let me pick a movie ever again after that. She was like, this is not funny.
Well, yeah, because people talk about rom-coms, and then there's also like rom-droms where you're like,
I like rom-drom.
Yeah, like you're like, oh, this isn't funny at all, but I'm caught up in it.
Okay, a rom-drom. That's like a new genre for me.
I guess it's just called a romantic movie, like you said. But
yeah, no, I like rom-com, rom-drom, and we need like a romantic horror movie. I don't think those exist. So before we bring up the topic for today, I have a question for you.
Sure.
You grew up in Long Island, right?
Correct.
So how do you think growing up specifically in Long Island influenced both like your sense of humor and like the movies that you watch?
Ooh, interesting. Okay, so I think I might actually have an answer for that because growing up on Long Island is kind of like a weird place to grow up because you are 40, like at least for me, particularly where I grew up, I'm 40 minutes away from the cultural epicenter of America, maybe the world, New York City, you know what I mean? And like movies, theater, everything that's happening there. But Long Island has like its own dumb mouth breathing kind of attitude. The joke you always hear is like we're 40 minutes from the city and 80 years behind it.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, because like, for example, my family, not rednecks or, you know, like shut-ins, weirdos or anything, like, and they had Thai food for the first time in like 2017, 2018.
Really?
Like, yeah, I was like, let's order Thai food when I was visiting. They were like, what kind of food is Thai food? I'm like, holy shit. And,
Wow.
And there's kind of like there's like a pride in Long Island that's like a pride in not leaving, a pride in like, I don't need to go to the city. I got a fucking great pizzeria right here. And they're not wrong, but there's something about like that closed-mindedness. So I think if I had to explain my taste and how Long Island affected it is the proximity to the city, and then I eventually would move there and work there and take improv classes there and meet interesting erudite people and learn way more. But the idea of I have like a basic, you know, in the modern, like this bitch is basic kind of sense. I have like a meathead and or basic taste in movies, you know, like I love Arnold, Van Damme, and Sly and all those guys. And so I think that coming from like suburban, you know, white trash kind of proudfully, like willfully and proudfully a little ignorant, like coming from that vibe, toxic masculinity, you know, it's the 80s and 90s on Long Island, so it's a very specific vibe. But I think I hold on to some of the positives from that.
Yeah, as you should.
Yeah.
I mean, there are positives no matter where you grow up in the world, even if there are negatives or just difficulties or
Right.
challenges. But it's good to hold
There's
on
always
to where
gonna
you
be
came
something.
from.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
always going to be something.
That keeps my like nerd meathead dichotomy that I live by sort of like
a teeter-totter.
Yeah, it keeps philosophy there. It's like, yes, I care about your pronouns, but I also care about how much you bench press. Like,
Yeah, and also like I like the Thai food thing because Thai food's like my favorite thing of all time. So for your family to be introduced for the very first time, it's like mind blown.
because I remember like I had it for the first time in like 04, 05 when I moved to Brooklyn, and I was like, oh, I've heard of pad thai. They're like, no, you got to try pad see. Ooh, and I was like, whoa, this is like my. And then I think I'm like practically Southeast Asian at that, you know. And I'm like, oh, I've got it all sorted. Mom, you got to try pad see you.
And then you're like, there we go. We know exactly what we're doing today. So as always, my guest gets to bring their topic to the mic. So John, why don't you tell us what your topic is and why you decided to choose it?
I'm going to title the topic a succinct title, but I don't know if it's fully covers everything I want to talk about, but I'm going to go with journalism movies.
Okay.
And the reason I chose this topic is they are my comfort movies. When I am worried about what's happening in the world and what's going on, these movies make me feel good because they're frequently about one person or one small entity fighting back against a larger awful thing that's happening.
Yeah, they're
And-
like underdogs.
yeah, and the feeling that there are intelligent, passionate people out there fighting to make the world better is reassuring. Because I'm not doing that with my time. I'm not making the world worse, but I'm not actively helping make it better. So I'm happy to hear of the Erin Brockoviches of the world and shit, and like that stuff. And so when you hear about all the bad stuff's going on, you're like, there's got to be some climate scientist who's like, damn funding, we will make this work or whatever. So that's why these movies, I feel nostalgia for them because we don't frequently get them anymore. We don't frequently get that much journalism period anymore. And then they are comfort to me and they make me feel good, even if they are like the fact that Spotlight is a comfort movie for me is insane. Like that's a bad thing to tell people. Like if I put that on like a dating app, I think people would pass frequently or swipe the other way. I've never been on an app.
Hold up. Before we start talking about journalism movies, it's time for a word from our sponsors. Back by popular demand, the Video Archives merch store is up and running. Get your favorite t-shirts, hats, notebooks, stickers, and more at videoarchivesmerch.com. You know me. I write all my notes in the Notes on Cinema notebook, the Gall edition, of course. Check out videoarchivesmerch.com to get yours today. Hey, thanks so much for being a loyal listener. If you want to keep up with me off mic, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Gala Avery.
Hey cinephiles, did you know that even though it might sound like it, it is currently not a crime to be a cinephile? Not only is it not a crime, but there are places to go to get help. One of those places is CinemaForce. At cinemaforce.net, you will find a channel devoted to all forms of cinema appreciation. There are epic essays on films, documentaries, and exclusive series like Better in Black and White. And if you want to go even deeper, you can join CinemaForce on Instagram and explore the more physical history of film through press kits and physical media. Don't be ashamed of your cinephilia. Go to cinemaforce.net and subscribe to the YouTube channel now. There are others out there just like you, and we would love to help.
And we're back. So you heard it here. We are going to be talking about journalism movies. I have 30 minutes on the clock, and our time starts now.
What if I just talk super fast for like 30 minutes
Some
unbroken?
people do. So what is like the number one journalism movie for you? Because I know what popped into my head.
Well, what popped into your head?
Network.
Oh, Network is
popped into my
great.
head. Network is part of like this like genre of movies that are like I'm trying to develop, which is basically like rollerballs in the same genre and Westworld. And if I have a name for it, it's blanking right now, but it's basically just like movies where I don't know, like systems are failing and computers are working against people and like all these things. Because it's really like corporations are working against the individual.
Right.
And I feel like that kind of is also like in journalism movie. You have like these big corporations, like the Erin Brockovich one is like a perfect example. Because she's going up against a huge conspiracy.
Right,
And she's
right.
fighting against it. And I love that that's a true story.
Yes, like frequently they are true stories too. So I'll throw out some examples because sometimes they're not truly about journalism, but they follow the same path. Mm-hmm. The Rainmaker, the Francis Ford Coppola one with Danny DeVito and Matt Damon, and they are just people they're lawyers suing on behalf of people who've been wronged by corporate polluting.
So they're not technically journalists, but it is like the underdog going up against a big corporation, and they're doing kind of investigative work to discover what's going on.
So that shit just always works on me, especially like when it's against like a societal ill of some sort. Like you said, the corporations mounting it in a world where you can feel overwhelmed by how like the entire weight of Silicon Valley's intelligence and money and all of the businesses, all corporations, the entire weight of all that power is behind trying to take your time and your focus and your money and your vote or whatever.
We just had what just happened? Was it the parent company for MTV and CMT just took down all of their interviews, and so it's like 30 years of music history has just been wiped from the internet.
And because they can't afford the server fees or something
like
that?
That is so not true. That's
because there's no residuals in part of this, unfortunately for journalists. But like, so that means all of like they can't just keep a website up. I have websites from dumb bits I've done that I can afford to keep up. Viacom, Paramount, whatever the fucking grandma company is. And,
not even parent, just grandma.
Right, it just goes all the way up to the top. So like these movies are frequently based on true stories. They will make me feel like it's for me, and I'm sure you can probably wrap your head around this based on the little I know about you from listening to video archives and knowing the family you grew up in. Like movies was like my way into like understanding a lot of things.
Oh yeah. Movies was my way to connect to people also. It's
Same.
like when you identify someone that loves movies, and it doesn't even have to be the same movie you like. It just has to be like elements of movies that you can connect with, like, oh my god, like the cinematography, or oh my god, like the storytelling, or oh that really caught me. You're able to connect with people that maybe you wouldn't have anything in common. To be honest, John, if you and I were walking down the street together, I don't know if like we'd have a ton in common, but movies are what bind us.
Yeah, and like we're both like rabid about them.
Also,
so.
I do care though how much a guy can bench press.
Thank
just
you.
So
Thank
everyone
you.
knows. Just so everyone knows. I asked some guy, I was like, how much do you bench press? And he was like, 228 or something like that, or I don't know. It was very specific.
It's probably 225 because that's two plates on
why
each
would there
side.
be an extra 2 pounds on each side or 3? But I asked my friend who she's this lesbian Chinese plumber power lifter, and I texted her. I'm like, does this guy lift a lot? And she's like, yeah, he lifts a lot. And I was like, okay, you lift a lot. I had no concept. I had absolutely no concept.
Man, I wish I had a lesbian Chinese powerlifter plumber I could text.
Oh my god, Vicky, if you're listening, I love you, but I also made her into a plumber, which is the weirdest thing about this story. She was like going to trade school, and I was like, what if you became like, I don't know, like an electrician? And she's like, I wouldn't want to do that. I was like, what about like a welder? And she's like, man. I was like, what about a plumber? And she dropped out of college and became a plumber.
Whoa.
I know.
Wow, and that's weird that plumber is the one that hit because like the other two don't have poop in
Yeah,
them.
and she's well, she was commercial plumbing for like constructions and stuff.
Oh,
but
hell yeah.
anyway, so I text her when I need to know how much a man lives for my.
It's good to have someone like that. Well, now you have my number too.
Yeah,
so
so
if Vicky's not around,
if
you
she's
can
not
hit me
around.
up.
But that's the thing is like movies are what connect us together, and so to be able to watch something and just be like, I love movies.
Did you experience a little bit too? For me, a big thing I enjoyed about movies, and then eventually me being funny would roll into this too. But it was a way to be heard as a kid.
Yes, but you know,
Especially, I'm assuming in your family, where
well, in my family, because like my dad, obviously, and like we would all watch as a family. But it was funny. I never had any movie friends growing up. Like I never had none of my friends liked movies. None of my friends understood movies. I grew up in a really small town called Ojai up in California. Yeah, people now have heard of it, but like back then it was like a tumbleweed would roll down, and we had a movie theater there that was a single thing, and like
cool.
only blockbusters would play there. And I should have probably worked there as a kid, but I didn't. But it was just like, it was a way to be heard. And eventually with the internet coming out, it was a way to discuss things with people and to like reach and connect with people.
Well, I mean, that's the first thing I did when I got access to the internet was like download movie quotes, look up movie websites. Like, I mean, I blew entire PA jobs just looking at IMDb. Like,
Isn't that
like
crazy.
just like, whoa, this, because I have distinct memories from when I was a kid. Like my dad and I connected over movie. We, classic distant working alcoholic father, blue collar guy, but he did really like movies, not in like a intellectual hipster way,
But he liked to go.
He liked to go. I saw T2 in the theaters because he wanted to see Terminator 2. And my dad was a martial artist, so if it was Seagal, Van Damme, Chuck Norris...
So that's why you love all those guys,
So
is
that's why
because
I
your
love-
dad... Did your dad take you to like the drive-in, or was it like the hardtop theaters?
No, yeah, it was a hard... We would go to... We did have a drive-in on Long Island, but we would never really go. We went to the mall. So, like, my dad worked... evenings like 3 to 11 in the city as a stagehand, so he was always home in the mornings, which didn't really matter to us during the school year. But in the summers we would go to the beach every single day from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. every single day.
Wow.
And so that's a major facet of my personality, is being an island boy beach bum. But then when it would
You're like
rain,
an East Coast Island Boy beach bum.
yeah, and that's why I fit right in when I moved out here. I moved out here right as like, medicinal weed was taking off. And, 12, 13 years ago when I moved out here, I was like, I think I'm going to like it here.
I think I'm gonna like the beach, the pot.
Yeah, it's all the shit I really liked in New York. They have it here.
And it's better.
Yeah, and I could go in fucking October, which is the real treat.
Yeah.
'Cause you get like 3 more months of beaching here.
I know.
It's
The
awesome.
year round.
And we just passed June gloom, and we just buried
Thank
it.
God.
Yeah. Do you live on the west side?
So this is a very complicated life story.
Oh no! Reset the timer.
I know, right? I'm from the South Bay, technically.
Yeah.
So like Hermosa Beach, because that's where my dad grew up. And then I grew up out in Ojai, and we split our time Ojai, Hermosa Beach. And then I lived Ventura. Then I lived Venice Beach. Then I lived back Hermosa Beach. And now I'm out in Westlake Village.
Whoa!
Which is like my happiest place on the planet.
Oh, that's so
and I'm
cool.
like 20 minutes from Malibu. So I'll just take the canyon down.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. So.
That's so rad.
But no, but I was on the west side for the last 3 weeks, and it was gloomy and dreary.
I'm so happy for that great the May gray and June gloom to be gone. Start getting that sun first thing in the morning. It's a real treat. But so when it would rain and it would not be a beach day, we would go to the movies, we would go to the mall and get to go to the arcade and the movies. And because now in hindsight, it was because my dad would then take us back to the house and leave us alone at our childhood for 3 hours till my mom got home from the hospital. But so going to the movies. And then that would be a way for me to connect with grown-ups, because I was just above average intelligence little kid, and I'd be like, I got that movie, or I could remember things, and I would like repeat comedy lines.
And then adults were like, oh, he actually listens.
Yeah,
He actually remembers.
And it would be a way to connect with adults. Like my dad would be like, do Eddie Murphy Delirious for your uncle, you know, like, and I'd be like, you know, G.I. Joe swimming in the bathtub, find out where the water's coming from. Like, so I would do all like, and movies were like my path. So they were like that classic fantasy of like, ugh, I'm not at home. I'm here in these movies. I'm fighting bad guys. I'm doing, you know, I'm looking for the Holy Grail. And that, but they were also partially like my connection to back into society of like, this is how I would learn to talk to people like my whole life. And I guess movies is like my sports, and I do like sports.
That's
too.
funny because I kind of identify that also. Like if I had to say like what a sport, okay, the other sport in my family though is MTV's The Challenge. It's like the Olympics in my family. Like
you're all Johnny Bananas heads.
No. I am not a Johnny Bananas stan. I am not. What he did when he's like, I never cheated anyone in my life. I'm like, Johnny, it's on video.
You're a liar.
You're a liar, Johnny. No, I love that show, and my family gets really hyped for it. But like movies are my sports. It's like you remember things. It's like I assume it's kind of how like people feel about like baseball players. Like I remember all the players in my favorite movies, and I remember like, oh, when they connected, and like, oh, this person then was in this one, and
people are like, oh, I gotta go watch the game on Sunday, and I'm like, oh, Bike Riders comes to the theaters this weekend. Like you know,
I
like
gotta go watch the game.
I gotta go see it. You know, I'm like, and then it gets into that like kind of, oh, did you see that like. Oh, I'm a huge fan of the Knicks. Oh yeah, you love Patrick Ewing? Yeah, what about that? You know, and now I do the same thing with movies. I'm like, oh, I loved whatever. Insert any Martin Scorsese. And you're like, oh, have you seen American Boy? Have you seen Italian American? Like, have you like? And then you're like, go on and on about.
That's the great thing. It's kind of like a chain because you can like, if you like a movie, you can go like either the chain with the director or a chain with an actor, and then you can chain, and you can just keep going.
That's what I remembered as a young kid telling my dad I really liked Goodfellas when we watch it, and he's like, oh, you should watch other Martin Scorsese movies. And to me, I think that unlocked like, wait, there was a guy who made this movie and he made other movies, and I like this movie. I wonder if I'll like his other movies.
And did you?
I did. Indeed, yeah. I did. I think I saw Mean Streets next, and I was like, yeah, I'm on board. Kubrick, too, because I loved Clockwork Orange so much.
Those are both, like, New York guys. Is Kubrick long? Well, he's British, but, like...
Yeah, I know he, like, was in New York for a long time. Marty is obviously a New Yorker. And I don't know if that's what drew me to them, but I just think you see a cool movie when you were a kid. Like, I saw Clockwork Orange, and it blew my mind. And I was like, I read the book in 5th grade or 6th grade or whatever, and I was like, I'm learning. Oh, this is so cool. And then... You know, you're like, hey, do you know he also directed that movie Full Metal Jacket? I'm like, oh, wow. And I'm like, one person did these two things. And like, as you like learn that, it's like, oh, you think Robert De Niro's good in this movie? Well, wait till you see this. And I'm like, oh my God, isn't that the guy from Goodfellas now in it? Like,
yeah.
And like, when that first starts happening for you, that's pretty wild. Like, and it's so obvious now. Like, obviously, that's how movies are built, and that's how Hollywood works. But
also, when you're a kid, it's like like a kid, teenager, like young person, like you don't know. And I always love hearing people say like when they first realized a movie was not real.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, oh, I realized like the rocks, they don't really kill you, or like, oh, it's just a prop, or someone made that. And it's so true because there is a suspension of disbelief. Like when I go see Alien, for example, I don't know why that's the one that popped in my head.
That's fair.
When I go see Alien, though, like I know that's not real, but I want to believe.
Oh, you want it to be real, and like pretending that it was real was like, you know. I'd be playing Space Marines the moment I finished watching Alien. You know, I'd be fucking loading pulse rifles or, you know.
And you know, today's the anniversary of The Thing, by the way.
Oh, shit. I know. 42 years.
I know.
Fucking awesome.
Another
great movie.
I love that movie.
Carpenter was one of those guys, too, that I didn't know. Because I loved Big Trouble in Little China much as a kid. Because it's martial arts, it's Kurt Russell, it's weird,
that
it's
movie's
funny.
Kind of underappreciated, I think, now. A lot of people kind of try to poo-poo Big Trouble?
I think that might be when people say like it's hard to always pick a favorite movie. I feel like my top 5 movies for the last 40 years, Big Trouble has always been in it.
It was funny though. I was like talking to some like I think he's like 20, and he's like, "Oh yeah, my friends and I were gonna like pick a bad movie to watch," and then they named one, which I'm like, "Okay, God of Cooking." I think is kind of like a silly movie, right? And then they said Big Trouble in Little China, and I said, "Hold on." that is not a bad movie. That's
No.
not even a so bad it's good movie.
No,
That's
and it's
just
like
a good movie.
It's just a movie that makes big choices, which sometimes fun bad movies make big choices, and you like that about them. But Big Trouble is one that pulled it off. And Gracie Law is not, she's a lawyer in it, that's Kim Cattrall, but her friend is a journalist writing for the, back to journalism movies. I'm a professional segue.
You wrapped it around.
But even movies where science has to fix a big problem.
Yes.
Anything where like a small cadre or one smart, intelligent person sees something the rest of the world doesn't see and decides to step up and help. Like that shit just always works on me. And because I'm praying that someone's doing it right.
So what
now.
about disaster movies, like where Paul Giamatti steps up all of a sudden? It's always him, and he's like, "Listen to me, the tornado's coming."
Those ones work a little, but they feel like they go into another like The Martian. I know it's a book first, but like that one kind of is like when I first saw Apollo 13, and they come out and they're like, the filter's broken or whatever, and all the guys in Houston at the ground control are like, this is what they have up here. We need to get this to connect to that. We're gonna science the shit out of this. Like I have goosebumps talking.
I know, because
about
they're heroes.
Yeah, they're heroes,
and they're also just kind of just like regular guys.
Well, that's what makes it so appealing, is that like I don't think I could like hold an M60 machine gun and save save American soldiers that are in Vietnamese POW camps like John Rambo. But I think I could be part of a think tank that helps figure out how to solve that's something that you can like or I could at least place myself in. I could see myself.
Or you could be the person's like, hey, something's not right with this situation. We need to change that. Right.
And there's something about the empathy of those characters. You know, you rarely have like a main character who like really. So like when you see Brockovich for the first time, which I think was maybe the one that like opened this whole thing up for me, where you're like, it's cool, it's a fun movie, Soderbergh, right? And Julia Roberts, of course, killing it. But like, it's also like this, and the fact that it's based on a true story makes it even richer. It's
that's great. That's the crazy part.
This woman just gave a shit about other people, and that just feels so good. And like, Dark Waters with Mark Ruffalo is a really great one.
Ruffalo.
I love Mark Ruffalo. It's really funny because Mark Ruffalo is playing a guy in Dark Waters who's like worried about the environment, classic, like also based on a true story. But it also feels like when you're watching it that this could easily be about Mark Ruffalo, like because he's such like a
nice
like
guy.
A cause guy and like a let's help people guy, that it could easily just be a documentary about him trying to fix shit.
So when did like journalism movies become your comfort film? Because it sounds like you grew up watching like martial arts and like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm a big action movie head. Yeah, but there's something about it must have happened at some point in my 20s. I feel like because. You grow up on a steady diet of like cop and war and action movies, and then you get like enlightened a little to like, hey, why am I so anti internal affairs at 17 years old? Like,
why am I so F the man?
Yeah, and well, you're not like you are pro the man.
That's the funny thing.
And you're like, yeah, the cops. You got to let the cops do what they want. That's right. Shoot that thug
Dirty
in the
Harry,
back.
Yeah,
and
let Dirty Harry kill the serial killer. Literally, when I'm watching that movie, I'm like, yeah, get him, Harry.
Yeah.
I don't
when you're
care
a
if you
kid,
go
you're
outside
like,
the law.
I understand this. Kill the bad guy. And then when you're a grown up, you're like, well, what was the bad guy's situation? and now you're like what was
his home life like?
Yeah, what was his home life like?
What led him to
mental
be
health
this
is
way?
a serious issue. Like anything could be going on, And so all this shit, like, it starts to, you start to be like, oh, extrajudicial killings by the police. Maybe I don't fully agree with that. And not that like I can't watch a movie that I completely disagree with, but then like the journalism movies give you that all around like feel good of like,
yeah, because they're not killing anyone in the process. They're actually trying to save people's lives, and the person they're taking down is like usually a financial takedown or like a credibility takedown of some way,
or even like the takedown rules, and it's important. But I do think even more of like, and now the family whose daughter has brain cancer will have the money they need for treat. Those moments in those stories too. Like, and I always, like, a legal thriller is just an amazing genre. Of course, there's and journalism thrillers, like they all. But I enjoy the legal thrillers where it's like they're all coming at us. We like, Runaway Jury is like a real like. That's a good one to call my comfort movie because it is like not a killer, not an actually great movie, but it's one of those movies where it's like Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman are the two lawyers. It's like the cast is like insanely stacked, and it's still just like medium good.
Just medium.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
And I'm here for it. I'm hard pressed. I'm trying to think of some other movies.
Well, would you consider like 12 Angry Men to be, because that's like kind of an interesting one because it is kind of a courtroom jury thing. But
I mean it's a fucking awesome
but
movie.
have you heard the theory that actually the guy did do it?
No.
And that the guy who's holding out is correct, or the guy that's holding out is incorrect, and that the jury is originally correct. It's like this whole interesting, like you can watch the movie with he is innocent or he isn't innocent.
Ooh, this seems like a fun thought experiment.
And so like when you watch it and you're like, wait, you actually have one person that's convincing everyone that he's innocent, but he actually did it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, the ethics of that.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, it's like,
oh, I like that. Yeah.
And it's because he just wants to go for his like ball game or whatever. I don't know.
Other ones that fit, I think there's a Jessica Chastain movie called Miss Sloane, where she's kind of like a boardroom person, but turns it all around and like helps out. This is not exactly the same, but it's just one of the best movies in the last 20 years. Michael Clayton is just a fucking stellar. Yeah. It's not exactly the same, even though Wilkerson is kind of trying to stop corporation. There's more at play in that movie than a classic. Just like we got to no, that's a good call because like because again, that's one person trying to stop something big and bad from happening, and maybe people don't believe them or whatever. Yeah. You can get it into journalism, get into like legal thrillers. You can get it into
like
science.
The science.
Yeah,
like The Relic was one maybe that.
Oh
like,
yeah,
people,
yeah.
Like, when they. Even though like I'm not particularly a fan of The Relic,
right,
but The Relic is like she is like, hey, there's something going on here, and like no one believes her, but kind of rightfully so.
Did you guys do The Relic?
We did.
Yes. Okay. I was like, because I remember I was recently inspired to watch The Relic, and I'm trying to remember why. And that makes sense.
We did it on Video Archives, and Quentin will always defend Tom Sizemore and Penelope Ann Miller in that movie, so I cannot speak any further on it. I might get a call later, an email like, what are you doing?
I'm trying to.
Yeah, Network is like the one that just popped into my head. I'm not quite sure why, because really, it's not like a journalism movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it matches the exact pattern of what I'm going for here, but I do also. I guess there's an element of like siding with the main character, like that. And
Network's weird because like it's like I'm gonna commit suicide on air, and then everyone's like, we want to watch you do it, and they're like, you can't have him do that. Like that's not appropriate in the slightest to broadcast on television. I'm trying to think of like other ones. You have Spotlight.
Yeah, Spotlight is a great one.
I kind of like your mention of Zodiac though.
Zodiac kind of fits in my specific genre of what I like here. Salvador is not exactly one of those.
I don't know if Salvador is one of those or not.
No, I don't know.
I wouldn't say that is. But you could, Zodiac, the Octopus Murders, but Octopus Murders, is that what it was called? I didn't see that.
Oh,
was it new?
It's pretty fucking rad. It's about like a government organization takes over some filing system that can help you look through like Department of Justice files.
Okay, yeah.
And then like someone ends up murdered, and then like all these weird characters are attached to it, and it's called the Octopus Murders because the tentacles go out to like 8 different like major.
Is it based on a true story?
It is a doc.
Oh, it's an actual documentary.
Yes, and it plays like 3 Days of the Condor, Parallax View.
Really?
And then the journalist who's originally following the story commits suicide in a hotel alone.
Yeah, with air quotes around that.
Yes, I hope I was able to sell that for the listeners, but yeah, classic like
oopsie doopsie.
Oops, did you used to work at Boeing? Looks like you killed yourself again.
Well, I don't know. Have you ever seen Winter Kills, which like I became obsessed with because they played it at the Bev, and I watched like 3 times in like 1 week.
I've never seen it.
But it's basically about like the Kennedy assassination, but like not. And so it's just really fast, but it's a conspiracy movie. It's a parallel too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's really good.
Winter Kills.
Winter Kills. But it's not. He's not a journalist, but he meets a journalist, but is she a journalist? So it's like this interesting like
cool.
dichotomy. I like the movie. I don't want to give it away though. What happens?
won't.
Because it's also one thing in the journalism movies. If it's based on a true story, you know how it's going to end.
Right.
So is that part of the comfort of it?
There is an element to that. Like even I enjoyed watching She Said, the Amazon one that was about the Harvey, the women who broke the.
I didn't know that came out yet.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. They I forget the cast, but it was pretty stacked, and they just kind of cover them taking down Harvey Weinstein,
Wow.
which is cool. Yeah.
That's crazy. I watched the R. Kelly doc, but not
Oh.
they haven't made like a true movie out of that yet.
No.
I assume they will, maybe.
At some point.
I'm sure they have
yeah.
to. They have all those weird ones though, but those are not like. Then it starts getting into crime because like you have the journalism movies that are just like taking down, and then you have like what was that one that came out recently? It's like God, I can't remember even. It's like about the woman who like sent like 40,000 emails or whatever to her boss, or her boss sent 40,000 emails to her. I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking. Yeah, because you can easily go one step over, and then you're in a like single cop trying to solve a case. Then you go like a nudge further, and you're just in like true crime.
And then all of a sudden you're in like a single white female.
Yeah.
And then you're just like off the rails.
Yeah. I don't really like those Discovery ID those
obsessed.
those
You have
docs.
to watch Lieutenant Joe Kenda. You have to watch Homicide Hunter. You have to watch, if you like Silence of the Lambs,
I do.
watch
I love
Deadly Women, because Clarice Starling is based off of it's her name Candace. I can't remember her name right now, but she's the host of Deadly Women, and so she's based on her.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I love Silence of the
Candace
Lambs.
DeLong.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
Manhunter is one of my favorite movies.
I
of all time.
love Manhunter. Don't get me started on Manhunter. Manhunter though is he's a cop though. He's not a journalist investigating.
But yeah, you wanted to watch, you sicko. Why put them bodies over here? Because you wanted an audience, you sicko. Will Graham is so creepy.
He's so good in it.
Yeah.
I love that he just completely adopts the serial killer.
Oh, I love it. I love his shorts. Like, I want to live that life he has down in Florida with like putting
the
the turtles, yeah,
Jinx.
and those fucking shorts. I just want his thighs.
Oh, no, not my
What?
time.
Wow, perfect timing.
Wow, you want Will Graham's thighs, and that's just perfect timing.
Oh, clip. That's a wrap. Goodbye. All right, lad. Thighs. Got it. Thank you.
I got what I needed.
I
I'm
got
out
what
of
I
here.
came for. Gotcha, bitch.
Okay, so before I wrap up, I have to ask you one question, because I had this written down because I was interested. But your Wikipedia is very interesting, John.
Is it?
I wonder who wrote it, because they know that your admission essay to Marist College was about Popeye.
That's really fucking weird. You know, podcast listeners are crazy. I have like 500 episodes. I guess you could like AI myself if you wanted to. But someone I must have talked about that at some
Someone
point.
literally wrote that note. I was like, that's a very oddly specific. And I was like, I wonder if John's the one putting up his Wikipedia or not.
No, I don't even know how to edit my Wikipedia. I only found out I had a Wikipedia because I wanted to see if I was the most famous person, if I was mentioned in my high school's wiki. So I went to my high school for notable alum, and I was there, and I was pumped. And then that's where I learned that Lenny Bruce went to my high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't think I'm chasing in his exact path, but I do find that's kind of interesting parallels, that like, you know, like a boundary pushing comedian type person. And I'm like, well, that's funny because it's not a huge school. It's not
like
a special
in your
school.
DNA.
Yeah. It's just, it's in the water there.
It's in the water there, the funny water.
Yeah. Hey, Seinfeld, Howard Stern, Eddie Murphy, Alec Baldwin, all from within like 20 minutes
I
of where
didn't know
I grew
Eddie
up.
Murphy was.
Yeah,
I love Eddie Murphy.
A huge Eddie Murphy
I'm a
fan
huge
over here. We
Eddie
were
Murphy.
growing up, of course. Like,
Yeah.
he's the best. Yeah.
So that is all the time that we have for today. Now that I cleared up the Popeye thing.
Thank God we solved that.
I know, right? But John, is there any final thought that you'd like to share with the audience?
If you're young and deciding to pursue a career in journalism, I know that sounds brutal right now, but I want to just let you know that I appreciate that. I appreciate if you are shining lights on the dark corners of society on our behalf. Thank you very much to all our journalists out there.
Thank you to my guest, John Gabrus, for coming on to the show. If you'd like to keep up with John, you can do so on his website, gabrus.com, or on Instagram @Gabrus. I'm Gala Avery, and this has been The Gala Show. The Gala Show is brought to you by Avery.com. This episode was executive produced by Roger Avery and produced by Gala Avery. Music composed by Andy Milburn. As always, I'm your host, Gala Avery. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved. Despite me sharing the same last name with this charity, I don't have any affiliation with it, besides the fact that the issue is very near and dear to my heart. Did you know that in the United States, 2.7 million children currently have a parent in prison, and it's estimated that 10 million children have experienced parental incarceration at some point in their lives? I was one of these kids, and as an adult, I am really grateful to be able to give back to Project Avery. Their mission is to build leadership from within by supporting community through programs such as mentoring and outdoor education, and also to remove the stigma surrounding having a parent that's incarcerated. You don't have to feel alone. If you know a kid who could use these resources or would like to donate money or time to the charity, please go to Project Avery, that's AVARY.org, to check out what this amazing charity is all about. Again, that's projectavery.org. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.